Hi everyone, in today's video we're learning how to make a child-sized scarf. I'm calling this scarf the crisscross scarf because it uses a special stitch called double crosses. It's a spiked stitch that uses double crochet. It's really easy to do and it's only a 4-row repeat, so once you get going with it, it works up very fast. Let's get started. The yarn that we're using is called Lion Brand Mandala, and I'm using the colorway Cupid. So you can see here that it's a nice ombre yarn. My daughter loves these colors. I want the fringe of the yarn to match the first chunk of color in the colorway. So to do this, I'm going to begin by removing some of the center of the cake. And to do that, you really just tug it out. It's not too difficult to do once you get a hold of it. Just pull it out. Cut that bit off and set it off to the side, and we'll be able to make fringe with that later on. And you can get started just by, again, pulling through the center of the yarn. Before we jump in, let's talk about our supplies. I'm using an H hook, which is a 5mm crochet hook. I've got my yarn. You're also going to need a blunt yarn needle and some scissors. And the stitches that you need to know to complete this pattern are the chain stitch and double crochet. So let's jump right in. We're going to begin by leaving a nice long tail end, making a slip knot, and chaining 19.
And 19. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to turn our work over, so we're looking at the back side. I always work into the back bumps for my first row. You can see those just right there. Each one of those bumps is a stitch. So we're going to start off by skipping 3. There's 1, 2, and 3. And then into the 4th, we're just going to put 1 double crochet. And then for the remainder of this row, we're going to put 1 double crochet in each stitch. Okay, and you can see now why I work into the back bump. It's because the edge of the first row is really nice if you do that. It looks just like the top of the stitches. Okay, so carrying on, just 1 double crochet in each stitch.
I'm going to take this moment just to ask you guys, if you're completing this pattern, to please like and subscribe. It really helps my channel grow, which gives me the strength that I need, the mental strength I need to complete more patterns for you guys. It's really helpful to me. It doesn't cost you anything to just hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're finding this helpful. I always love fulfilling requests too, so if you are seeing this and you're wanting something similar, just be sure to comment below and let me know what you're looking for, and I will try to complete a video on that for you.
Alright, so that's the last stitch there. Now we are going to chain 3, and we're going to turn our work and begin row 2. For this row, we're going to put 1 double crochet in each stitch across. Now the chain 3 is always going to count as a stitch for double crochet. So this stitch space does not need another stitch because the chain 3 is going to count as that double crochet. So working into the next stitch space, we're just going to double crochet into each stitch across. Now because the chain 3 counts as a stitch, we're going to put our last double crochet into the top of that stitch. Okay, so now we're going to chain 3 and turn our work and then get started with row number 3. So this is where the fun begins. What we're going to do is, so 1 double crochet in the first stitch, and that chain 3 counts as that, okay? So we don't need to do anything there. Now looking at the next 3 stitches, 1, 2, and 3, we're going to put our special stitch. Now this is a spiked cross double crochet stitch. So what we're going to do is we are going to skip the first 2, so skipping 1 and 2, and then into the base of this 3rd stitch we are going to double crochet. So this right here is the top of the stitch where we traditionally work. What we're going to do is we're just going to work a double crochet right there into the base of that stitch. And this is what makes it a spike stitch, because we're going down further than we normally would. So I've got my yarn over, and then I'm just going to try to keep it in the light as best I can. I'm going to put my hook right through the base of that stitch, and then I'm going to double crochet like normal. All you need to do is make sure you pull up a little extra yarn, just so that way it doesn't get really bunched up. Okay, so now we're going to double crochet into the previous stitch. So we're not going to go into the base, we're just going to go into the top like normal, and we are just going to put 1 double crochet in the previous stitch. Now to finish this special stitch, what we're going to do is we're going to go back into the first stitch that we skipped, and again we're going to put a double crochet into the base of that stitch, just right there, not into the top, just right into the base of the stitch. So I'm going to yarn over, going to insert my hook, and then I'm going to crochet just like normal. And you can see all I've done is I've pulled up a little bit of extra yarn, so that way it's not really bunched up in right here, just a little extra yarn, and then I'm going to complete the double crochet as usual. And so that is the first spiked double crochet cross stitch. So now we're going to put 1 double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches, just working into the top as usual. There's 1 in the next, and 1 double crochet in the next. Okay. So now we're going to put another crossed spiked double crochet over these next 3 stitches. So what we're going to do is we're going to skip 2 stitches, skipping 1, skipping 2, and then double crochet into the base of the 3rd stitch. Then I'm going to double crochet into the previous stitch, just in the top as usual. And then I'm going to do another spiked double crochet into the first stitch that we skipped there, right into the base. So here's the top, and there's the base. Making sure to pull up enough yarn. Just complete the double crochet as usual. Okay, now 1 double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. You can see here that this one is a part of the special stitch. So this top here is the next stitch. So there's 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets, and 3. So now we have 4 stitches remaining. We've got 1, 2, 3, and then our chain 3, which does count as a stitch. So what we're going to do is work one more special stitch. We're going to skip 2, and we're going to double crochet into the base of the 3rd. Then we're going to put 1 double crochet in the previous stitch, just in the top like normal. And then in the first skip stitch, we're going to work 1 double crochet into the base. So now 1 stitch remains, and that's the chain 3 from the previous row. And we're just going to put 1 double crochet into the top of that chain 3. Then we're going to chain 3, and we're going to turn. So now we're going to work for row 4. We're going to do 1 double crochet in each stitch across. So the chain 3 counts as our first stitch for that one right there. So just 1 double crochet into the next. One double crochet in the next, and 1 double crochet in each across. Now you'll notice that some of these stitches look rather large. That's okay. That's a part of the pattern. Okay, it looks really nice once you get several rows going. You'll be able to see that that gap right there is not a problem. Just a part, and just is the nature of that spiked stitch. Just 1 double crochet in each stitch across. And then there's the chain 3, so that is a stitch. We're going to just double crochet into the top of the chain 3. Perfect. Now we're going to chain 3. Then we're going to turn our work. And you can sort of see it coming together already. I'm just going to set it down so you can get a little bit of a glimpse here. So there's our 3 special stitches that we've worked. Now what we're going to do is we're going to work special stitches just here and here. And so it'll be a nice alternating pattern where we have 3 and 2, then 3 and then 2, and it'll carry on that way, which means we're almost to the repeat.
So to start row 5, we have our chain 3, and that does count as a double crochet, so we're not going to do anything into that stitch space there. But over the next 3 stitches, we're going to put 1 double crochet into each stitch space. So here is our first double crochet, our second double crochet, and our third double crochet.
Now we're working that special stitch just over the next 3 stitches. So what we're going to do is we're going to skip 2, then we're going to double crochet into the base of the 3rd stitch, double crochet into the top of the previous stitch, and then double crochet into the base of the first skipped stitch. So there's the base. Just insert your hook and complete the double crochet as normal. Okay. So now over the next 3 stitches, we're going to do 1 double crochet in each. There's 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, and 3 double crochet. So now over the next 3 stitches, we're going to work our special stitch. We're going to skip 2, 1 and 2, and then into the base of the 3rd, we're going to double crochet. We're going to put 1 double crochet into the top of the previous stitch. And then we're going to put 1 double crochet into the base of the first skip stitch.
Okay, over the next 3 stitches, we're going to put 1 double crochet into each of those. So let's start there. We've got 1 double crochet in the next, 1 double crochet in the next for 2, 1 double crochet in the next for 3, and then you can see we have 1 stitch remaining the top of that chain 3. We're just going to put 1 double crochet into that stitch.
Okay. So there's what the pattern's going to look like. For the repeat, we're going to repeat rows 2 through 5.
And you'll want to repeat rows 2 through 5 until the scarf is the length that you wanted it to be. Mine ended up being about 58 inches because my daughter wanted hers to be very long, and that took me until row 102. So just stop wherever you feel comfortable, making sure to end on row 5. I do have the written pattern up on my blog, but if you're not comfortable reading written patterns, I've put in the chapter markers so that way you can go back to whatever row it is that you need a little extra help on. And when you guys are done with your repeat, be sure to meet me back here and I will show you how to finish off and attach the fringe.
Alright, so I have worked up 102 rows, repeating rows 2 through 5 to get here. It's looking really beautiful. I love this pattern. So now what I'm going to do is I am just going to fasten off the yarn. And I'm going to do that by just cutting a nice long tail. I always cut more than I need. What I'm going to do is add fringe to the ends here. And so I want a longer tail than is necessary because I'm going to weave it in for a couple stitches and then I'm going to hide the rest of that tail in with the fringe. So just a nice long tail here. And then I'm going to pull this tail end through, and that's going to stop the stitches from unraveling. And I'm just going to get the tail end onto my finishing needle here. And I'm just going to weave up and down a couple of stitches. And this is going to help make sure that the tail is very secure. It's not going anywhere. Okay, and you can see here it's just coming out the top of that stitch, and when I add the fringe on, I'll be able to trim that long tail to the same length as the fringe. So let's get started on the fringe.
If you've never made an attached fringe before, I will put a link in the top right hand corner to an in-depth tutorial that will show you how to do so. A quick rundown is that you find a book that's the same length that you want the fringe to be, and then you wrap your yarn around that book over and over again, and then you cut along the side of the book, and that gives you strands of yarn when folded in half are the length that you want the fringe to be. Now attaching the fringe is pretty simple as well. I'll show you guys how to do that really quickly. But again, if you're looking for a more in-depth tutorial on how to do this, I do have that available. So for this scarf, I'm taking 2 strands of yarn. I'm going to fold it in half. I'm going to pinch the loop in place so that stays nice and neat. And then always entering in from the same direction, I am going to put that hook through, like underneath a stitch. So you can see here all of the stitches along the edge of the scarf. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my hook to open that up. Going from the left to the right, I'm going to pull that loop through to the right hand side. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to open it up and I'm going to pull the tail ends through that loop. And you just gently tuck it. You don't need to pull it really tight because that will make it look really uneven. So just gently get them through there and then repeat that all the way along the edge of the scarf. And you do that for both sides. Now you'll remember earlier at the beginning of the project, we set aside that darker color yarn, and the reason we did that was so that it matched, so that the fringe matched the color of yarn that we began with. So you should have that yarn still reserved, and you'd want to do the same where you wrap that around the book, cut your strands, and then you attach it to that side. So you can see here I've pulled the loop of the strands from the left to the right, and then I'm just going to pull those tail ends through. The reason you always do it from the same side is so that the fringe looks uniform. That's the back of the fringe there, and then on the front, that's how it looks. So if you do it in the opposite direction, it's going to be mismatched. So there's my tail end. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hide that in with the fringe. So I'm going to fold my 2 strands in half. I've got my loop. I'm going to go in from the left-hand side. First, I'm going to open it up with my yarn, bring the yarn in from the left to the right. Going to open up that loop, and then I'm going to grab my tail ends of the fringe and then also the tail end from the project. And I'm just going to pull that all through. Tighten that up, and then I'll be able to trim that tail end off. Okay, and then you just want to carry on doing the fringe for the remainder of your scarf.
All right, so I've got all of the fringe attached. It's looking nice and airy. If you add too much fringe, like if you put too many strands in, it ends up stretching out the stitches, and then it sort of starts to bow at the end like that. So you just want to do enough to where everything stays nice and even, and that it's not so heavy that it weighs down these stitches at the end here. I hope you guys have enjoyed making this scarf. If you have any questions, please be sure to comment below, and I will see you in the next video.